Um, George got stuck, with being the Beatle that had to fight to get songs on records because of Lennon and McCartney. Well, you know, who wouldn't get stuck?
Hmm.
You know, I mean, if George had had his own group and was writing his own songs back then, he'd have been probably just as big as anybody. Um, and George had uncanny ability to just play chords and of just that didn't seem to be connected in any kind of way, and come up with a melody and a song. I mean, I don't know anybody else who could do that either.
Hey guys, so I finally listened to George Harrison's epic All Things Must Pass triple album. That's ballsy as hell. But today I just wanted to go track by track, kind of do an album review for you guys because this one, even though it is a triple album, it is so worth going track by track. And you'll kind of find out why. And towards the end, we'll see if it holds up to this day. Is it still a masterpiece? Is it still an epic? So, just a little preface. Obviously, George Harrison was the quiet Beatle, and he was slowly getting better at songwriting. You could hear some early songs of his that were, I mean, obviously the whole band kind of evolved, but he started to really stand out towards the later years of the Beatles. And I don't think there's really an argument for this, but obviously his best song that he wrote with the Beatles is Something, and that was on Abbey Road. Um, to this day, that is still one of the prettiest chord progressions. I just absolutely love playing that song. I never get tired of it. All right, so first off, we have I'd Have You Anytime. This one was written with Bob Dylan in 1968, so they started to kind of develop this musical and personal relationship. I believe they met out in Woodstock. I really love the electric guitar in this track. I gotta say, George Harrison is a little bit underrated as a guitarist because for example, in this song, I feel like his choice of notes is really well thought out. Um, and that's kind of hard to do. And for one of like my favorite examples is the song that the Beatles did off of John Lennon's demo in 1991, I believe, Free as a Bird. Just listen to like that slide intro, and he has really, really pretty choice of notes. And this one is no exception. This one's kind of grown on me. First time I heard it, I didn't really like it. So I kind of try to listen to, when I'm listening to an album, I'll try to listen to all of these songs maybe twice or three times because sometimes a song just won't hit you the same time. Sometimes a song just won't hit you the first time as much as like listening to it, I don't know, the third time or the second time. So opinions do change, so I try to kind of soak it in as much as I can whenever listening to an album. So yeah, this one is kind of hypnotizing melody. I really like it. Very kind of soft, folky tune. Yeah, it's a pretty good tune. A good way to start off the album. Kind of sets the tone, even though this album is full of a lot of surprises. Second track on this album is one of my absolute favorites right now, and it's just so good. My Sweet Lord. That song definitely brings back some memories, but it has just been on replay for me this whole time. It's so good, so catchy. So it starts off with a simple, catchy acoustic chord progression, which is, it's an iconic intro. And he right away shows off his amazing slide work, which I'm not sure how often he used it when he was in the Beatles. I don't think he used it a whole lot, but this is definitely like his trademark thing for this album and for his career going on as a solo artist. But I absolutely love the mixing in this song. It's such a beautiful build from the beginning to end. Obviously, how it starts off with that, super, super basic but catchy acoustic intro, building up, building up, building up. And at the 45-second mark, like Ringo Starr is actually on this track, by the way, and the drums just come in. It's like everything is so perfect, but the way that he does it in that 45-second mark when the drums come in, he'll kind of play the chorus a little longer. So it kind of builds up like this tension or like this anticipation. It's like, oh, why did he do it a little bit longer? And he kind of lets the drums and the bass kind of come in and do their thing. So what I really like about this album a whole lot is really the timing. And I feel like George is really an underrated songwriter. He is so damn good. And this song is one of the best examples for him. So the songwriting in this song obviously shows off his spiritual side, which maybe I'll get into that in a whole another video, but basically he got really into religion. It's kind of a pretty big topic in this album as well. Really, this song is a gospel song, but it's gotta be one of the best. So the song uses Hindu and Christian terminology. George Harrison actually did this to kind of not just target one audience with religion, but more than one, I guess you could say. So I see it'll go from Hallelujah to Hare Krishna. And he did that on purpose. He's like, oh, first you're singing Hallelujah, now you're singing Hare Krishna. So kind of bringing you, or kind of inviting you to his spirituality, straight off second track of the album. And I think that these two songs so far have really set the tone for what to expect with this album. Not so much the structure of the songs, because I don't think he's repetitive, but um, more so the production and his incredible songwriting. Unfortunately, in the 1970s, this song was at the center of a heavily publicized copyright infringement lawsuit due to its similarity to the Ronnie Mac song, He's So Fine, by the New York girl group The Chiffons. It's a 1963 hit. There's a couple of funny stories about this lawsuit. There's one that George tells. There's one that the lawyer said. There's one that the judge had said that he really enjoys both songs. And George Harrison's lawyer was like, well, I thought you said they were two different songs. And then he kind of backtracked and was like, oh, well, no, that's not what I meant. So pretty funny piece of history right there. Allegedly, we don't really know what happened in there. So third track of this album is Wah Wah. It's just such a good rocker. This one is so underrated. But no acoustic intro this time, so kind of catches you by surprise after, the very low-key first two tracks that he goes into. But this one, man, what a riff. It's such a good riff, but it really transcends into more because of Phil Spector's production in this. He co-produced it with George Harrison. You might be familiar with hits like Be My Baby by the Ronettes. That whole wall of sound is his, and I think that wall of sound really made this album a lot better and made for example, in this song really could have just been another basic 1970s rock song, but it really transcends into more because of that wall of sound. It's a heavy blues track, and the bass is just the engine throughout the song. It's just carrying that groove. So not as in your face as the intro riff, but the guitars are sort of a little bit more in the back of the mix. The riffs in this song, if you listen really closely, listen to it with headphones. But if you listen to the riffs in this song, they are so damn good. Like, they are so good, and it's like, man, like, I kind of wish it was a little louder in the mix, but, it's cool. It's really good. So yeah, I've talked a lot about the mix in this song in particular, but the vocals I feel like aren't super important in this song. They're kind of a little bit, just like the electric guitar, they're like kind of in the back of the mix. And I really do like that choice. As the song moves forward, it becomes this big ol' orchestral piece. The orchestra and the backing vocals really are what makes the song something different, something really unique. Um, and I really like that because first, the obviously it starts off with that cool guitar riff, but it doesn't stay in the front. It kind of starts to take the back seat and let the orchestra take the front seat. And I think that's a great decision. And I think that's what made the song really unique. But I will say, like, the first time hearing this song, um, it was, I got hooked on that riff. It was a cool riff, but yeah, a lot of surprises in the album, just with the songwriting and what the songs kind of transform into. This one really caught me by surprise. I could not tell what was gonna happen after, so it really transforms into something more. So this is a great one. Next up is Isn't It a Pity? This song really reminds me of like the hypnotic melodies that the Beatles kind of started doing midway through their career. Um, Sort of like, yeah, Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds, or Strawberry Fields Forever. It kind of reminds me of that, like slow, very hypnotizing sort of stuff that they would do. Or Because, that one, the ending of that is pretty hypnotizing too. However, there aren't as many moving parts to the song as to the ones that I just mentioned. And that's totally fine. That is a-okay. So this song is kind of repetitive in the way that the Lennon-McCartney duo kind of achieved in Dear Prudence off of the White Album. If you really listen, that intro riff off of Dear Prudence is playing the whole time. And it kind of, the orchestra kind of takes over, kind of what happened in Wah Wah. But I gotta say this one's a little bit more hypnotizing, more just not as complex of a song, and that's okay. That's totally fine. Really adds variety to the album. I don't really want to compare George's work too much with what he did with the Beatles because this is his solo work, but this song really transforms into a beautiful extended outro that's kind of like a cinematic score is what it reminded me of. And it really reminds me of She's So Heavy off of Abbey Road. But this one, instead of being dark and mysterious, is a little bit more, I guess I would describe it as bittersweet. So, great track. So this was my first time listening to this album, but I had heard What Is Life before. I've heard a couple of songs before. So this one I was kind of bored with it, first time I heard it, but it really has grown on me. And what really did help me was listening to it with headphones. I don't really use headphones because I just kind of blast it in the car, or kind of just put it on some speakers. Not really a big headphone guy, but this one really did make me appreciate it a lot more. The strings in this track, they're really placed perfectly. The strings kind of mimic the intro riff kind of towards the end of the track, and that really transcends the song into another exceptional outro. And so with listening to it with headphones, I kind of started focusing on little things like the rhythm guitar in the beginning. If you just listen to that, it kind of sounds like it's going to be a funk intro, but as the song goes, the rhythm guitar kind of starts to become this kind of a soul kind of groove. So a lot of moving parts with this song, and yeah, every instrument is just so key in this. So some of the backing musicians in this song include Eric Clapton and the entire Delaney and Bonnie and Friends band. That's a mouthful. With whom he toured during the final months of the Beatles. So George originally wrote this song in 1969, and he intended it to be for his friend Billy Preston, which also makes a few appearances in this album. And if you don't know who Billy Preston is, he actually is a really good friend of George Harrison's, and he was in the rooftop concert with them in 1969. And wow, just check out his cover of My Sweet Lord for the concert for George. I believe it was in 2002. Man, he is just so good. He's such a good piano player, such a good vocalist. Anyway, let's continue. If Not For You. So this song was actually written by Bob Dylan. This is a cover song. It was a love song for his wife. So Harrison kind of turned it into more of a melody-centric tune. The piano in the song is really what caught my ear. Really adds a nice layer to it. The harmonica and the keyboards also make the song sound a little bit atmospheric. Good track. So Behind That Locked Door, I'm a little bit biased towards this song because I am a country fan and this song is just incredible. So just 7 tracks into the album, there's already a breath of fresh air. This one's not really folky and it doesn't really, have that big orchestra going on, and that's fine. But this song could have easily been performed by Roy Orbison. And I think this track really immediately shows off how versatile of a songwriter George Harrison is. So this song does feature Pete Drake. You might be familiar with his song Forever. Check that one out if you're not. If you're a fan of this song, you'll like it. But fun fact, in the late 1980s, George Harrison did record and perform with the Traveling Wilburys, which were made up of Jeff Lynne, Tom Petty, Bob Dylan, and yes, Roy Orbison. The lyrics, in my opinion, kind of, I would say they kind of talk about how finite life is, which is another big topic in the song, obviously because of George Harrison's spirituality. But to quote the song, he says, "Let your heart out from behind that locked door." So do with that as you will. Okay, Let It Down. Now this song I feel is just controlled chaos, and it's one of my favorite songs in this this whole album. This song uses the orchestra so damn well because it kind of feels like it's just this big jam. It's like putting like 20 talented musicians in a room and just having them all jam, and they just like put mics in there. It is so good. The intro kind of reminds me of like an action spy movie, only to transcend. The intro almost reminds you of like an action spy movie, only to transform into this beautiful, mellow, hypnotizing verse. Chords in this are really pretty, as George showcased in Something. He was in the Beatles. The layering and the mixing of all the orchestra mixed in with the slide guitar can really make you confuse the song for like a David Bowie or a Pink Floyd track, which I think really goes to show how kind of far ahead of his time and how really unique of a songwriter George Harrison was. Run of the Mill. Now this is another slow melody-centric tune. The song is really pretty, and George Harrison did write it shortly after the Beatles Get Back sessions in 1969. Some sources will say that it's about the Beatles, or really Lennon and McCartney, undermining his skills as a songwriter. And other sources will say it's about how running their company, Apple Studios, kind of took a toll on their relationship. But kind of up for interpretation. Depends on who you listen to. I Live For You. This song was one of my absolute favorite songs before deep diving into this album. Like I said, I'd kind of heard, I don't know, in total probably like 3 or 4 songs off of the album. I guess this one can kind of fit into like the genre country, but the beautiful steel guitar is none other than Pete Drake, again, is featured in this track. Now this track wasn't originally on the Triple album, but there were a lot of bootlegs that were kind of around of it. So it was released as a bonus song in the 2001 30th anniversary edition. So all other instruments besides Pete Drake were all overdubbed by George and his son Danny in the year 2000. Beware of Darkness, first version. I really like this version of the song. It's kind of a little bit more intimate, and it kind of shows off George's singing abilities. And I think this song really goes to show what Bob Dylan said about George Harrison, about him never really wasting a note. This one's a good example of it. Let It Down, original guitar and vocal. Now this version is obviously a lot more stripped down. Again, just very intimate version of the song. I feel like this song doesn't really have like that same hypnotizing sense about it without the big orchestra going on. But I think it really makes you appreciate how much of a difference Phil Spector did by co-producing it with George Harrison and his Wall of Sound. And just how much of an impact and how much of a difference that Wall of Sound really makes and really transformed this album into something a lot more special. My Sweet Lord 2000. Now, I wouldn't really be surprised if a lot of people like this version more. I personally don't, but I'll definitely throw it on sometimes. It's not the Wall of Sound epic, but it does make you appreciate the little details that are kind of easier to pick up with this song, as well as George just showcasing the awesome slide work in this song, which is trademark for this album. So one of his close friends is Joe Brown, but his daughter, Sam Brown, just has amazing vocals in this song towards the end of it. So this version definitely isn't like the last two that we just talked about. This one, I feel like really is different. Like it almost feels like an alternate version. So yeah, I really enjoyed this song. So Harrison did pass in 2001 due to cancer, and he had this to say about the song. He said that he wanted to create something extra for the anniversary issue. So he says, I decided to have a new look at My Sweet Lord and change it from the original version. And I feel like this song truly is a fitting epitaph for a remarkable cultural figure. Beware of darkness. So in the verses of this song, the listener is warned against various influences that may corrupt him or her. Among the potential corrupting influences are con men, which are referred to as soft shoe shufflers in the song. Politicians, which are greedy leaders. And pop idols of little substance, which are falling swingers in the song. In addition, the listener is warned against negative thoughts. So it's, to quote the song, it says, thoughts that linger, since these corrupting influences can lead to maya or illusion, which distracts people from the true purpose of life. And pretty cool thing to live by, right? Apple Scruffs. The harmonica in this song is really the cherry on top. Opening just like gun blazing with it. At first I was like, what the hell is this song about? Apple Scruffs? What the hell, like a love song for Apple Scruffs? What the hell? But then I looked into it, and the Apple Scruffs are just referred to as like, I guess it was, I'm not sure if they were hippies or not, but this group of people, I guess groupies, that would hang out Apple Studios. And while the rest of the Beatles kind of seemed to look down on them, George actually always really treated them with respect and just saw them as other humans. When Harrison finished this one late at night, he actually invited them in to listen to it. So that was really nice of him. Really cool story. But the chorus is really my favorite part of the song. He incorporates this kind of a yodel, which is a little bit weird, but it works. But yeah, we're about halfway, actually more than halfway through the album, and this album just keeps on giving. Really, at this point, I was not tired of listening to it at all. Ballad of Sir Frankie Crisp. I'm not sure if it's just me, but something about this song just feels kind of nostalgic. It's a folky song that's very bouncy, and George Harrison does say that the Ballad of Sir Frankie Crisp is a piece of personal indulgence inspired by an eccentric lawyer from the 1800s whom I have come to know by becoming the proprietor of his Victorian Folly, his home, which was Friar Park. Sir Frank was also the authority of the medieval gardens, and Phil Spector did say that if he were to change the lyric, that he'd have a few cover versions of the song, but those words were written because that's what it was, is what Harrison said. When Harrison purchased the house, he carried out extensive renovations and found many items dating back to Crisp's time as an owner. Harrison, like Crisp, was also a keen gardener, and he spent a lot of time restoring the gardens. The cover art for All Things Must Pass was taken on the grounds of Friar Park, actually. and it depicts Harrison dressed in his garden attire, surrounded by garden gnomes that were actually taken from Frankie Crisp's collection, and the Bavarian gnomes that George Harrison has in the cover art. He actually purchased them because they were actually stolen sometime in the late 1870s. Next up is "Awaiting on You All." This one is kind of a song you can dance to. A little bit of another breath of fresh air in the album. Like I said, there's a couple of them, and I think this one is one of them. But yeah, I really like the groove and the loose drumming in this track. So Harrison actually sings of chanting God's name as a means to cleanse and liberate oneself from the impurities of the material world. According to some sources, he also questions the validity of John and Yoko Ono's 1969 campaign for world peace. I'm not sure which lyric actually has anything to do with that in particular. I don't know. But what is funny is that it's such a jolly melody, but he still managed to fit in a lyric that says that the Pope owns 51% of General Motors and the stock exchange is the only thing he's qualified to quote us. It's pretty funny how he sneaked that in there. Sneaky George. Next up is "All Things Must Pass." My God, I could just talk about this song nonstop. I could probably make a whole video on it, and I probably will someday. It's such a beautiful composition. And off of this album, I'm biased, but I think I gotta say it's the best composition. A lot of people will say that that the Beatles actually rejected this song, but if you look at the Get Back session tapes, they actually rehearsed the song quite a bit. So I'm not really sure why they didn't put it on the album. But anyway, back to the composition. It is so pretty. So the B minor that he hits in this is so pretty. So it's doesn't last all morning. The cloudburst doesn't last all day. Seems my love is up and has left you with no warning. It's not always gonna be this great. All things must pass. But that is just so pretty. That B minor that he hits right there, I could listen to that nonstop all day. The composition is just so damn nice in this. I can never get enough. But yeah, perfect composition that he does there. So satisfying to the ears, you know. It's always just like those notes that just come in at the right time, you know, just perfect placement. That's really all it is. But back to this song being rejected by the Beatles, which doesn't seem to be entirely true. But I'm actually really glad that it wasn't a Beatles song. I'm glad that next to "All Things Must Pass," it doesn't have the Beatles on it, but it has George Harrison on it. And I think that is kind of what he's remembered for, you know. So he really put his stamp on his songwriting prowess. But yeah, the song probably would have had a different outcome. Obviously, the Beatles did use orchestras in their compositions, especially towards their later years. But yeah, what he did with Phil Spector on this track is just so unique and sublime. It's really this song by itself is a masterpiece, really. The composition just is amazing. Also, back to the guitar here. He hits an E minor 7 when he's like, "So I must be on my way and face another day. Now the darkness only stays the night time. That E major 7 that he hits there is just such a pleasant surprise in the song. And each chorus kind of gets better as it goes. First chorus, pretty straightforward. Second chorus actually hits that B minor twice. And the third chorus is the one that hits that E minor 7. So a little bit of music theory for you, I guess. Not really music theory. I'm just telling you the names of the chords and the chord progression. But just really, I think it really makes a good impact on the song. One of my favorite lyrics is right here. He says, "Daylight is good at arriving at the right time, and it's not always gonna be this gray." Now that just has to be one of the finest lyrics right there from George. Yeah, but he did say that the whole idea of all things must pass is that it's very philosophical. It's nature for change, that we have change and it just keeps going. Which is something that I really keep in mind a lot. Not gonna get too much into that, but
because Beatles was such a big deal, they can't understand why we should actually enjoy splitting up. But there's a time, there's a time when people grow up and they leave home or whatever they do, and they go for a change, and it was really time for a change.
Don't you think a lot of people just envied the idea of being world celebrities, though? And being
Some people, would go on and on forever, singing the same tune and playing the same gig if they were making some money, Yeah. But I think we'd all rather give that up and try going on our own and try doing something we really want to do. And if we don't make it, then hard luck. But as it happens, we've all got such a lot of goodwill hanging over from being Beatles.
I dig love. So I immediately love this intro of the song. It's like a little tease of what's to come. First, the piano starts it off, and then the riff is later accompanied by the bass and the signature slide guitar that is a trademark on this album. So a little bit of history here. So I Dig Love originated from George Harrison's initial experimentation with slide guitar playing in open E tuning. Guitarist things. Not that you have to know what that is. His introduction to this technique actually occurred in December of 1969 when he joined Eric Clapton as a guest on Delaney and Bonnie's European tour. So in his autobiography, I Me Mine, Harrison recalls that Delaney Bramlett handed him a bottle of Bottleneck Slide and asked him to play a line in which Dave Mason had played on the Coming Home record, since Mason had recently quit that tour. I guess that was the start of his signature trademark slide guitar playing. Next up, Art of Dying. Art of Dying, no, and it's not the Gojira song with the crazy time signatures, even though that one's badass, but this one is also such a badass song. I swear, it is so damn good. I feel like this is just another breath of fresh air in the song. Like, there's so many in this. And this is the 20th track of the reissue, and the album, I remember listening to it first time. It never got old. It was just like, what, like for a triple album, it was a little bit scary, very ballsy at the time, first triple album ever in the industry. But knowing that it's a triple album and it's George Harrison's first solo effort is ballsy, but it's kind of scary at the same time. He was the Beatle that was overlooked the most as a songwriter, obviously. And for him to do this and for it to come out this good, I think was just the biggest fuck you that he could have ever done. Not that it was meant to be that, but that's really what it could be interpreted as. So this song, yeah, it's really cool. The vocal harmonies, they do remind me of something that the Lennon-McCartney duo would come up with, but as the track keeps going, it actually gets a little weirder with the riffs he's doing. I'm not sure maybe it was him or Eric Clapton on the record doing them, but the solos that Clapton does in the song are also so damn good. So the song is actually about reincarnation. He apparently wrote it in 1966. It's kind of like he gives a message and says like, here, I'll leave it for you, take it if you want. So it's not really forcing his message down your throat, which is really cool. I really enjoy that he did that. And man, there's like a little guitar break in it, so good, and then just goes back into it. Such a damn good song, and the song, it just had me hooked instantly. So check this one out. This one is, I had never even heard of this song, but so damn good. Hear Me Lord. Now this one is really good. The piano in the song is so damn good. The vocal harmonies in the intro are great for this type of a gospel song. That mixed in with the powerful keyboard in the back. This one, it really sounds like it could be like a Pink Floyd song, but like just like with a little bit more spice to it, I guess you would say. It's very hypnotic, and it's mostly due to the piano leading the way, which is all Billy Preston. So damn good. And he actually wrote this in 1969, and the Beatles did rehearse it very briefly. Harrison did include this song in the set for the concert for Bangladesh on August 1st of 1971. He performed it during the afternoon show only, so I guess there were 2 shows. But the recording has never been issued officially, unfortunately. So that's pretty much it. The rest of the songs are a bonus LP. They're titled Apple Jam. So it's really just like these big long jams. Like they get kind of bluesy. Some of them are a little bit psychedelic. So if you're into that, I would definitely check them out. The only one that stands out a little bit is It's Johnny's Birthday. It's just creepy. Like it just sounds like it's straight out of like a horror movie, like a clown movie. But apparently I think it was made for John Lennon. I think it was his birthday. Obviously Johnny's birthday, duh. But yeah, check those out if you're into it. I can't really say too much, you know, it's just instrumentals all the way. But yeah, they're cool. My biggest takeaway from this album is just how versatile he is as a songwriter, and just so much he could do. You know, even the Phil Spector's Wall of Sound in this it really makes the album more unique, I would say. But as you could see, even like with these guitar and vocal only tracks, he was, you know, he's a great songwriter. Just what he could do on guitar and his voice really speaks volumes. I do believe that this album still is a masterpiece, and that it still holds up to this day. There's so many surprises in this album. And like I said, I'm not a big headphone guy, but if you can listen to it like with headphones, like really listen to this album and just like pick out like every little thing and like that big wall of sound, you'll really appreciate it a lot more. Which is what I did. Like I said, I had heard about maybe 4 or 5 at max songs from this record. Yeah, thank you guys for tuning in. And let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. And remember, tomorrow is never promised, so make as much of it as you can today. See you guys later.